Hi there, if you're listening, that's because you're too lazy to read, don't want to read, or take pity on other people. This is Cursing and U.S. History. I'm going to tell you everything about the history of America because I feel like it. And if you have a problem with that, you can go fuck yourself. Now then, starting off, we're going to start off with the people that came over here, being Asian people. Well, specifically, we called them the Clovis people, who came over the Bering Land Bridge until it was gone. And they basically started out, being primitive mammals and such. And then, eventually, we grew up into Anasazi and Cahokia, Native Americans. The Anasazi, or ancient ones, started building communities in the southwest region of the United States, basically building homes into the walls of canyons. And they made big cities, and it was pretty cool, until they slowly declined and then became the Hopi, Zuni, Pueblo, and Navajo people. The other group of people that came about were the Cahokia mound builders. They dug a shit ton of hills because they wanted to, and they were also in the Mississippi River Valley, making the Mississippi culture for many years to come. They had huge cities, and they had like priests and chiefs conducting rituals and shit, and they even had so much food that they could afford to have workers that didn't get food. Wow. But they didn't have a written language, though. And that's pretty fucking sad. Uh, now, we're gonna get this into your head. America is actually kind of fucking big. So, you got American peoples all across, up and down the continent, and all these motherfuckers are speaking different languages, and you might think it's not so different, but no. Oh, what if you get a guy from what is now Canada and give him a guy that's from what's now like Texas? It's like giving a newborn English baby to a Chinese guy and trying to get them to speak together. It doesn't fucking work. It's very different languages. And and they lived a lot differently than Europeans too, because they weren't assholes who wanted as much gold and land as they could possibly get. They just kind of wanted to be together and live nicely with nature. And this includes the Pueblo people that took over the Anasazi old places, the tribes of the Mississippi Valley that took over the places from the Cahokians, including the Choctaws, Creeks, and Chickasaws, the Pacific Coast ones, called the Shasta and some other tribes that fished a lot, the Iroquois Confederacy, which were 5 nations that banded together and became cool, and they also made a lot of cool shit, like huge houses and you know, and like a huge like interconnected tribal nation of Native Americans. That was pretty cool. And there was also, the Algonquin speaking tribes on the Appalachians. And if you remember those Powhatans from when you were a little boy or girl in 5th grade, yeah, those were the ones that met with the first Massachusetts colonists, Sasquatch or something, or I don't know. And now let's move down to Mexico and Central and South America, with the Aztec, Mayan, and Incan empires. The Aztecs looked at the Toltecs and told them to go fuck themselves, so they did after being thoroughly ass kicked by the Aztecs, who then built a new, better capital uh, on top of the old Toltec capital, in a place called Tenochtitlan. And they had a lot of gold and jewelry and fish and meat and on and on and on. And they also conquered a lot of. They also tried to conquer a lot of people, giving them enemies that would help the Spanish conquer their asses later. And then the Mayans just kind of declined until they got fucked over. But they were the ones that had the first written language. That's pretty cool. Finally, we have the Incan Empire along in actual South America, in Chile, and some other cool places that you'll never remember because it doesn't matter to you. And they started their main conquest in about the 1400s and then got killed by all the Spanish people. Rest in fucking peace. And so, and now all the tribes, they thought themselves as different people. Like, I'm a different motherfucker than that motherfucker and that asshole and that son of a bitch. So when the Europeans come in, it's like, oh hey, it's a white asshole that I can trade with and make war with and be allies with to go conquer my other enemies, like those motherfuckers over there that stepped on my land and stole my crops. So that So, they didn't think of themselves as, oh man, we're all Native Americans. Gotta band together against them white peoples. Because they were all different to them. And white peoples were also different. And they thought they would integrate nicely with their society until they were all dead. So rest in fucking peace. But now let's talk about the rest of the world. In the 13 and 1400s, like you didn't take world history. Because, I don't know, maybe you didn't like to take it. So, before Christopher Columbus, that good old asshole, a lot of people were sailing around, including to America. Just like the Norse sailors, them Vikings, and also some other people, like the Portuguese. Now then, in some good old context, Europe was basically almost devastated by disease, and then taken over by the Catholic Church. That's alright, man. You do you. Everybody was living in a really shitty situation. The Ottoman Empire at one point conquers Constantinople and says, "Go fuck yourself. You want to go through the Mediterranean? You go through us. You got to pay the fees." And Europe, the poor European bastards went like, "I don't want to pay your fucking fees, Ottomans. You go fuck yourself." And so Portugal went like, "We're gonna go around Africa because clearly that's the way to India." And then they got rich off of Africa under the lead of Prince Henry the Navigator. That was pretty cool. They basically just they went a little bit farther every time from Portugal to Africa and then farther down Africa until they were connected with all the African empires and they got gold and slaves and gold and gold and gold and they spread Christianity and they got more gold. This is fucking awesome. But then they eventually even reached India and Indonesia and they got even more trade. They got spices. Everybody likes them spices. It's good for the food. Now England and France, they were fucking themselves over with 100 Years' War, War of the Roses on England's side, some other shit for the French side, and then, like, Germany wasn't even Germany. Italy couldn't even exist, even though there were Italian sailors like Christopher Columbus, the asshole. Well, and yeah, that was pretty much Europe. But we do have to cover for some reason why Spain exists now, because it used to be Muslim, but now it's Christian. Why? Because all the Christians went like, fuck the Muslims. Kind of like the current political climate. But what they did was they went in and they killed all the Muslims in a reconquista, and eventually they reconquered all of Spain and Portugal and they got it back. Yeah. And then, after they did that, Isabella and Ferdinand of Spain, who married in order to kick the Muslims out of Spain and get Spain, hired Christopher Columbus to go to Asia, but not the way Portugal's going, because fuck Portugal. They're right next door, so you gotta be quiet. But fuck Portugal. Okay? Now then, Africa had these three cool empires called the Ghana and the Mali and the Songhai empires. The Ghana was a cool empire that basically traded, metals, gold, ivory, and slaves until they got fucked over by the Mali Empire, which did the same thing. And then, to the east of that, there's a Songhai Empire that did the same thing. And they were all Muslim, and it was all pretty cool. And they all traded gold, ivory, and slaves. And especially the Mali guy, there's a guy named Mansa Musa who literally made a pilgrimage to Mecca and threw gold at everybody. It was fucking lit. And then there were also these kingdoms in Central Africa, like the Congo and Benin. And they had, like, super Christian beliefs. And there's some other details about, it's how specifically they lived. But you know what? You should have read the textbook. Slavery also existed before America. Wow! Basically, if you got fucked over in war, if you got fucked over by debt, if you got fucked over by crime, you're a slave now. Rest in peace. And just like the Native Americans, Africans saw other tribes as other tribes. They weren't the same. They weren't all an African people. They were all a bunch of different tribes telling the other tribes to go fuck themselves, or hey, can you, trade stuff with us? And so, slaves were fine. And this entire Asia section is basically, China was pretty cool. They started sailing. They stopped sailing because it was too expensive, even though they got a lot of money. And then they went home and then just tried to prosper by looking inside of them and looking deep inside and seeing all their economic potential and refusing to trade with the outside world. And this was the world before Christopher Columbus went west and proceeded to make America a shithole again. And tune in next time and you can learn about whatever the hell happened in chapter 2.